Welcome back to another Dr. Supercoach podcast powered by Code Sports. You're on with Pig, and this week I've got a very, very special guest, friend of the pod, once in a lifetime opportunity for this guy. Welcome to the podcast, Pistol.
Did you just Uno reverse card me?
Maybe a little bit.
Oh my God, this week, the carnage already, it's just Monday, which means things usually get worse, not better. It's finally happened. It's like the week from hell.
We thought it was going to come. People were wanting to go down to 0-1 trades, and we were saying, like, hold off, please. But, like, I've still got 3 trades, and that's not going to be enough. Those people with 6 will be looking good, but, yeah, wow, this is brutal.
Just wondering if this is the week I should be using my boost.
Yeah, who do I talk to about getting some of those?
I need a couple more trades and a boost, and I should be okay. But yeah, usually this is the week where you're saving up your trades, and I guess last year it probably didn't happen last year. You could skate by with no trades for the rest of the season. But this is the week that gets you to no trades, and then you're freaking out for the rest of the year in case there's a double up and this week happens again. It is absolute chaos.
We're just going to spend our last few trades, and then, yeah, we're just going to be running through the last 6 weeks with no pants on.
Well, it's a stock standard for me. How did you go this week?
Oh, it was all right. I copped some of the carnage, dodged some of the carnage. It was a bit of a... still haven't had a captain under 100, but I had Max going right on 100. So it was a bit annoying. But, I didn't have the Took, didn't have the Dawson, didn't have the Rankin, but did have some of the other guys, like, as I said, the Max Gorns, the Charlie Kernos, the Zach Fishers. There's a bit going on. Even Zach Butters, he scored 159 from 65% game time, and then got subbed out for rest.
Unreal.
That was a 200. That was a 200 gone begging. I think Ken Hinkley should lose his job just for that. But for me, 23-14, like, probably not good enough, really. It had me slipping a little bit in rank. I've said it every week. I'm just between 9K and 11K every single week. I'm still there. I can't move. What about you? I did notice that I got up on you and also Cheezo. I was playing Cheezo in a head-to-head and gave him a little touch-up. So I don't know if you'll listen to this, but there we go. So how'd you go?
Yeah, not a great week for Cheezo or myself. I did notice I did play him in a league and managed to beat him by 3 points. But yeah, 22.99, a little bit stinky. I've fallen 400 spots to 1700th overall. So still trying to fight into that top 1K. I thought this was going to be the week where it all lined up perfectly, but instead I was left with egg on my face pretty early. So many unique bad scores, like Dale's 73. Again, I guess Gorn captain's not that unique, but yeah, Dawson 60, Walsh 69, Houston 76, Kerno 33. It was kind of a disaster from Saturday onwards. Very unpleasant weekend, would not recommend. But I'm just happy that I managed to survive and not have a couple of those injured players. Still have to cop McGovern like many people, and Heaney's missing. And Gorn, I guess, but it's not 5. It could have been worse. Let's just put it that way, Pete.
We'll go through who these 5 are in a minute, but there are people in Slack that have all 5 of these players, and send our prayers out for those guys. I don't know how you're possibly meant to fix your team when you've got 5 of your premiums that you had last week. You're not going to have them this week. So I guess, is that a good enough segue? Should we go on to talk about what the carnage we're referring to?
A couple of points before we do that. The Dr. Supercoach Cup started with a bang. The first year ever that all 4 podcasters got blown out in round 1, round 2, I should say, which is hilarious.
It didn't start with a bang for us.
It's unbelievable. That is easily... I mean, it can't really have done much worse, but well done to all of us. We've put out great content that everyone's teams are better than our teams, and we've suffered in the cup. So thanks everybody to that. A quick shout out and reminder to those that are subscribers of our Patreon. It is the Slack catch up this weekend. If you need to, if you've forgotten, I hope you haven't forgotten, the details of where our meetup is: free lunch, free drinks, great time. We have a room booked all night, watch the footy, all day and night actually. Please check our Patreon for more details. Don't forget, that's on this weekend. And otherwise, a couple of donations for the Cancer Council. So a very quick thanks to Mark, who has said no donuts this year, but $10 to find out what's on Chizo's mind. Boy, you would have been upset about that, Mark. There's not much going on up there. He says thanks for the help. And to Jack Beard, donating for not setting up my VCC and not checking at work. Optimizer had it on VC Flanders and Bont C. Gained points on the mistake, but happy to make my first donation. Well done. Thank you very much, Jack, for your donation. I should shout out my cup opponent who did the same thing, but optimized with, I think it was Cherry had the C. No, Bont had the C, but Cherry VC and
in
won
the same time slot.
Because of it. Yeah, in the same time slot and won. Not because of that. That helped, though.
Well, yeah, a few things there. I think those wanting to know what's going on in Chizo's head, I imagine like on The Simpsons where it's the monkeys clashing the cymbals together sometimes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Slack catch-up. So excited this week. Get to meet a lot of the Patreons. I haven't actually met JB and Chizo in person. So that's going to be really nice for me. I'll get to hang out with you for another weekend. Pistol.
Too much. We've seen each other way too much this year.
Yeah, well, and there's another game. There's a couple more SCG games. Maybe we'll get to some more.
Perhaps.
But yeah, really.
I'm kidding.
Really excited about that. And to if any of those 4 coaches that knocked the podcasters out this week, if you're coming to the catch up, just be warned. No, not really. We might have to, get you a free beer or something, and extra free beers.
Extra free beer. Beer on us.
Beer on us for knocking us out.
Excellent. All right, Pig, you wanted to segue earlier.
Let's do it now.
Take it away, yeah.
Well, yeah, you said there's some big injury and suspension news. So I guess we could talk about the suspensions first. There's 2, I guess, really relevant ones, being Isaac Rankin and Isaac Heaney. Isaac spelt differently in this case.
Yep, and that matters because they got different suspensions based on the spelling of their first name.
Exactly. It's it's like the good bloke clause, but the name spelling clause. Isaac Rankin spelt differently.
You put emphasis on the Isaac. It's the same name.
I was trying to put emphasis on the Z. Isaac has been offered 4 weeks for a rough hit. So that means it's straight to the MRO if they challenge. I saw this one, and it did look bad, but I guess I'm not even going to really try and judge what's going to happen because the MRO and the tribunal in general are just so hard to predict what's going on. But at this stage,
yeah,
let's just play it like Rankin's getting 4 and Heaney's getting 1. I think that makes Rankin a definite trade out because he's now missing over half of the remaining season.
Yep.
There's 7 rounds left, by the way, so if he's missing 4, he's got to go. Heaney, I would hold. Heaney's the best averaging forward in the game. You've got Kruger, you've got Dowling, potentially some others that are, getting you 60s every week, so maybe that can be enough cover. That's how I'm leaning at this stage. Would you entertain either holding Rankin or trading Heaney?
I mean, it depends on your cover. I don't think you're trading Heaney for 1 week. I mean, I really think he's the chance to get off. We'll wait and see on that one, but let's assume he doesn't. If you have both, which everyone is going to have both. I'm sorry, if you have Isaac, I'm not going to say which one. No, if you have Rankin, you're going to have Heaney. So having 2 out on the same line probably makes it impossible to hold. So you're probably then trading Rankin. So I imagine, in the small world where there's only one out and it's Rankin for 4 weeks and he's a top of the line forward, I think you could maybe make a case for it depending on what your cover is. But given it's 2 on the same line, I think Rankin's got to go.
Yeah, I agree. And then we could go, there's some injury news. There's Jeremy McGovern with broken rib, maybe lung issues, but I don't, as far as I've seen, there hasn't been anything official come out of West Coast yet, apart from that he's had to stay in Melbourne and not fly for risks. You know, there's some people saying it could be 6 weeks, could be the whole season. There's some people saying it could just be one and this week. I think that one's a real wait and see. If it's one, you could definitely hold if you've got cover. But also, like, he's not that valuable compared to some of the other defenders. I mean, he's got money on his head, but he's not putting out these huge scores like, you know, the Shields of the world are. So McGovern, I think you could get rid of, but just wait and see. If it's one, you could pretty easily hold. But either way, if it's 6, or I might even put the line now. We got 7 weeks left. Maybe, do you think you'd maybe hold a 2-weeker, but a 3-weeker you'd get rid of? Do you sit there, or are you trading anything that's 2?
I think if I had adequate cover, I'd probably hold for 2 for McGovern. I mean, he's averaging 107 for the year.
Yeah, he's good.
He's been good. It's not like he's already someone who's average. You know, it's not like Nick Martin, and you're like, will he make top 6? I'm not really sure. And then I'd probably be, yeah, okay, trade. But it's someone who is quite comfortably in the top 5, 6 defenders at the moment. So I'd probably hold if I could.
Yeah, so hopefully we get some more news during the week. I think the teams usually release their injury report Tuesday nights, so hoping there's something in there.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I wouldn't even be surprised if, maybe not this week, but if they name him up and then they play the last game and he's a late withdrawal or something, who knows? But we'll find out. Then the other guys, there's a couple of 2 to 3 week injuries, being Took Miller with a wrist and Max Gawn with an ankle. How are you seeing these guys? I think I'm in the camp of trade them both.
Well, do you want to say why, I guess? Let me say, why do you want to trade both?
Well, if it's 2 to 3 weeks, and if they're saying that it could easily be 3, that's nearly half the season, is kind of where I'm sitting now. It will depend on how many trades you got left. Like, if you've only got 2 trades left, I wouldn't trade both of them, especially if you've got some cover. But, if someone's missing 3 weeks and there's only 7 left, and I have the trades to move them to someone else, obviously someone else playing 7 weeks is going to outscore this guy and a rookie for 7 weeks. So that's where I sit. But trades are something. And, I mean, the ruck line especially, we don't really have cover. Although maybe you've got Kruger, maybe you've got Jackson. Maybe you could do some swings there. But Max also is, neither of these guys are setting the world on fire. And there are guys in their position that absolutely are.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm thinking as well. Like, if I get rid of Max Gawn, I could get a Tom de Koning or a Toby Nankervis who are putting 30 points on him every week, plus they're playing. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. It's just that 2 to 3. I think that's where I'm leaning towards trading. But you've got thoughts?
I do have thoughts. If we recall podcast, I think it was after round 15, and we were ranking the ruckman.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had gone 2 or 3. I thought it was 3. I think I had Grundy and de Koning.
Yeah, I think you did from memory.
Then I did Nank before English, because I remember that was a big call. I just don't think Gawn is that good. I guess that might be a shock to some people. Like, since round 8, he had a game where he scored 180, which is obviously incredible. But then he's only had one other score above 114 since round 8.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's not like he's this incredible ruck. Like, in that time, like Nank has got a 5-round average of 135, and de Koning's, we've spoken about his run of just absolutely, he's making points up for fun. He's creating his own scoring method out there. So you got these guys. Even Sherry has had 4 scores below 100 for the season, and 3 of them are above 90.
He's been incredible.
These guys are scoring incredibly well, and I feel like Max to them is good. Look, if he's your M8 and you have no proper cover, then yeah, sure, trade. Not a big deal. He hasn't been great anyway. You can get somebody, maybe you can get Rosie, who's been much better. So that seems, pretty logical. I just think if he currently is your M9, or you have Rosie at M9 or someone else at M9, I don't think it's worth trading for a 2-week injury for your bench guy. I think you can just wait it out.
No way. I would definitely not do that if he's on your bench. That wasn't kind of where I was saying you should trade. I agree
Very
with you there.
team dependent. Absolutely. So the injuries, I guess, all stack up. I think people are waiting on Zach Fisher news, and that's going to be another talking point. I don't know if, this just might be one too many burdens to bear. I think people have got the stack of these injuries, and what order then? I mean, we only have 2 trades. I don't think many people will have a boost. If you're getting rid of 2 of them, how are you prioritizing which ones to get rid of?
Well, I think you got to wait to hear about McGovern. If he's 6, then he's going first.
Yeah.
If he's 1 or 2, he's probably not going. So, that will really swing it. I'd just do it by order of how long they're out, to be completely honest. So Rankin would go first because he's out 4, if that stands. Gawn probably...
Gawn and Took are the same length, now what?
Yeah, all right, Gawn, because there's other ruckmen doing better and it's probably harder to find cover in that line. Then Took, then... I'd hold Heaney, and I'll wait and hear about Fisher. Probably hold Fisher because they were saying last week he could be back this week, but Clarko also said McKercher was only a week away and then he was 6 weeks away, so I don't really believe Clarko, and I've got a Clarko foot scare at the moment.
I feel bad that you just traded him out and then he exploded on the weekend.
And it was just to avoid a donut. I held McKercher his whole bye, and then if I had held him last week, I would have copped a donut, so I had to trade, and willpower was all I could afford, and that's not been a very fun ride. So anyway, I think that's answered that question, the order.
Yep, no, for sure. So if you had Gawn, I think that would be most of us. Mm-hmm. He's probably the first trade option. I guess, in what scenario wouldn't you trade Gawn? Is it if you have a Luke Jackson swing you'd hold, or... how many trades do you think you'd have with Luke Jackson where you would still trade Gawn versus without Luke Jackson? I guess no cover, you got to trade. Or if you had Kruger as cover, at what point? I guess there's a lot of different scenarios and situations. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can offer any clarity around at what point you would trade Gawn, and then I guess we'll get into who we should trade Gawn for.
I mean, this is why some people did have Luke Jackson, was to cover that line. But if you're moving Luke Jackson up to your ruck line, then you're probably fielding another rookie in the forward line. Maybe if you've got that 23rd premium in the forward line, like a Simpkin on your bench, then I'd probably hold it all. Mm-hmm. But if it means bringing Dowling on, for example, or fielding Kruger for a few weeks, I'm not okay with that because they're probably giving you 60s, whereas you could be getting to a Nank or a De Koning maybe going 130s. So that's some huge point difference every week. So I think I'd only hold Gawn if I had that 23rd premium, or if I had like 0 and 1 trades. I wouldn't go down to 0 probably to get rid of Gawn. I just think I've got a feeling there's going to be worse things coming. Who knows? But yeah, and then with Gawn, I guess you could also, there's a couple of ways to go. Like you could try and find 40k to get up to Nankervis or De Koning, who we've mentioned a few times. Nankervis has the best ruck run for the remainder of the year. De Koning has the second best ruck run for the remainder of the year. So I think they're both going to keep up this tear. You could look at English if you need to go down. I still think English at 566k is solid buying. Like I think he'll just do that. He's had 3 scores of 130 in his last 5, so he hasn't been bad at all. Apart from the 2 that were bad were really bad. But as an owner, I'm going to look the other way. So his run home is kind of neutral. He has 4 easy games and then 3 hard games. So, you probably get some spikes and some duds and average out about 105 or 110. So I think English is solid buying. So there's a few options there. You could, I guess, go sideways to like a Cherry or a Grundy as well if you like them. Their runs aren't as favourable anymore. Like they've had their good runs, but they're still solid. So yeah, long way of saying I don't really like fielding a rookie in place of a ruckman because the ruckmen are such insane scorers. I would hold Gawn only if I kind of had Jackson to swing up, but then also like a Simpkin or someone else to put in Jackson's place.
So, yeah, it's very unfortunate that Heaney is out and everyone's got Heaney, and many have gone. In the same week, if you were using Jackson to try and cover your ruck line, because then you kind of need him for the forward line cover as well. So that's not great timing.
Yeah. And Rankin for some as well.
Yeah, and Rankin as well. I do think if you have more than if you have 3 trades, I'd use one on Gawn. I think it's not, we don't know for sure, like a big guy hurting his ankle, we don't really know how long that will take. You'd think they'd play it safer on the 3 side, and you don't know if it could extend out, and if there will be any issues coming back after that might impact his scoring. I'm not really sure. It feels like a solid trade to me, but also because the person you're trading in is probably a captaincy option.
Yep.
So that's really important. I mean, De Koning has a 144 5-round average. So it's absolutely ridiculous. Ironically, I think I prefer Nank. The stability of Nank, I think his ruck run, as you said, is the best.
Yeah.
I feel really confident being able to just captain him, and I think that's pretty rare given people have been messing up their captains left, right, and centre lately. So if you're able to pop a C on him and get a 130 plus score, it'd be a great feeling. So that's the way I would lean if I had the cash to pull that off.
Yeah.
And then Cherry's 121 5-round average, which again is just super safe and is almost identical price to Gawn, and he has a good ruck run, I believe, too. So all these guys
neutral,
but all these guys good enough ruck runs. No one's negative. 120 plus averages. It all just seems worth it. I was looking while you were talking. If Gawn's out for a couple of weeks, the next 2 ruckmen in total points is Grundy and Sherry. So we could have had set and forget to start the season, and I think many people did, and they probably traded one or both out.
Yeah, it's been a really weird year for the ruckman, I feel like. There's been guys go on hot streaks and then fall right off. Like, it's just been a bit of a roller coaster. I'm in the Gawn camp, and I'm also in the Jeremy McGovern owner. So I'm actually looking potentially to trade both and using that to get me Tom De Koning for a bit of fun, because I need a bit of, excitement for the last 7 rounds. Yeah, I need to spice something up, but I do agree with you that him or Nank, I think, are incredible options. And then I guess we could look at some other lines as well.
Have to.
Yeah. Took I'd be probably more comfortable holding than Gawn, because you're probably going to have better cover on that line, whether it's, even Jai Clark or the other Geelong rookie that's come along. Humphreys, is it?
Yeah.
There's a few good options giving you, 60s or 70s there that you could potentially hold. A lot of people do have that 23rd premium in their midfield because they got a cheap Rosie. So if you've got that, then that's just easy. You don't even need to look at trading too. But if you wanted to go to someone in the midfield, got a few options for you. Neil and Dunkley, are the informed players. They both got a 3-round average, to the moon.
Yeah, they're insane.
They're both about 640k though, so they're really expensive, and that's a long way to go from Took. They've got an easy run. A neutral run coming home. They've both got epic game this week. Butters is under 600k. He's actually got the 3rd easiest run coming home, and he's got a 3-round average over 130, I believe. So he's absolutely hitting form as well. He was hot, then he went on a dip. Now I think he's back and 3rd easiest run. Cripps is in really good form, 573k, but he's actually got quite a hard run now. It was funny, after their bye, they had a really easy run, but they've just had all their easy opponents. So now it goes to a hard run. But he's just in such good form. He's actually leading the Brownlow favouritism at the moment with Heaney injured now. So surely the players have to know that they're in Brownlow contention and just kind of going to give everything for the next 7 games. So Cripps is an option. I know they'll never admit it, but do they know they're in the running? Rosie's still under 500k, 495. Much, obviously, just the same as Butters. He's got the 3rd easiest run for inside midfielders coming home. So he's got a over 125 3-round average off the top of my head. So he's flying. I think he's a really good option. And then Zach Merritt, still under 600k, going to go up now, but kind of a hardish run. But they are flying. And he's flying. So that's also a really good option. Any other mids you'd kind of put in the mix if you were trading too?
No, I don't think you need to go super far for this one. It's pretty unlikely that you have all of the Port guys and Brisbane guys. I think they're like the standout options for me. So, I mean, if you have all 4, you're doing really well. I mean, even Rosie, even though I think there's a price bias, which I know affects everybody a little bit at least. And when you see Rosie being so cheap, you think he's not that good. But as pointed out a couple of weeks back at 400 odd K, it's an absolute no-brainer because he's as good as one of these like 580, 590k guys anyway. And I still think that he's 100k underpriced. He just scored 168. He's very, very good. So I'd be picking him above most of these other guys. It's probably just the Brisbane boys and then Rosie for me.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I started Rosie for 600k. I was that confident in him, and then trade him out and then trade him back in. So I'm big on him.
Speaking of trading people in and trading out, if my budget is just Took and I'm looking at the sub 500s and not Rosie because I can't afford him. Is the standout option McKercher?
Yeah, it could be. I think he's really good at that price. If you're not as worried about lines, in terms of position, and you can
other lines.
Yeah, there's a couple of under 500k defenders.
Oh right, yep.
If you've got some swinging action. So
it's
there's
an interesting conversation we're having. Yep.
Yeah. Carry on. So Trent Rivers is just below 500k, 498. He had a really big game, a really bad game, and then a really big game. He was probably Melbourne's best player on the weekend, playing very much midfield, so he's an option. Doesn't have a great, I think it's actually one of the hardest runs for inside midfielders, but he seems to be the only one in there doing anything, so he's an option. Colby McKercher, as you said, I think he's awesome. I really, really wanted to hold, couldn't hold because I would have got a donut, but I would like to see what he does with Fisher because hopefully for us owners, Fisher's back this week. I mean, McColby took all 11 kick-ins. No one else took a single kick-in. So he had the monopoly on the kick-ins, and with Fisher back, it might be more of a split. So it probably just means he's don't be expecting 130s, but I'd be pretty confident that McColby could be between 95 and 105, which at that price is an absolute bargain. And then
especially if he's taking all the McKickins.
McColby taking the McKickins.
I mean, McGovern did. So speaking of McGovern, the next backup is Duggan. And Duggan's also in that category, 485k defender. And if he's now on a monopoly of kick-ins, if McGovern is out long term, then you'd think his average would spike.
Yep.
Taking an extra 5 or so a game.
I do think that's a good call. I've had Duggan in a couple of draft leagues, and when he is that main guy, he also plays a fair bit of midfield time, but when he does go and just kind of hog the back line, he can score really, really well. But another guy I want to float under 500k, way under 500k, is Sam De Koning for 417,000. I'm actually looking at potentially doing a McGovern down to Sam De Koning to get gone up to Tom De Koning. So I might do a De Koning double.
I feel like I've heard this before.
Yeah, so what do you think about Sam? Like at the moment, he is the solo ruck at Geelong. Blitzarves helps him out a little bit, but he is the main guy. 417K. He's just coming off a 125. He had the big game against his brother as well. He's got the fourth easiest ruck run coming home if he stays ruck. He's got some good opponents. Is it just too risky, or do we think he maintains that role?
This makes sense to do when you're 9K rank, but this does not make sense when I'm trying to crack into the top 1K and don't want to fall completely out of it. I think it's a great pick for bench cover in terms of volatility of pick. Like, you can take the ceiling and avoid the floor, hopefully. But it is so risky. I mean, Geelong pretty much said, Conway was their future and they were going to play him every couple games and take their time with him. And they've given up on that. Now they're just playing De Koning as a full-time ruck. But I'm so scared that they just do random things towards the end of the season. And if he goes back to playing key defender, that's a terrible role for SuperCoach. So I'm petrified of that. I mean, I'm even too scared to recommend Tom Stewart, who's now playing a leading CBA mid-role at Geelong, which is completely bizarre. I mean, he was best on ground, pretty much 115 SuperCoach. And it's looked really good eye test wise at 491K, but I'm just way too scared of just things that Geelong are doing doesn't make. Well, I mean, we just haven't seen them do it for really long periods of time without throwing the magnets around. So I'm way too gun shy to get any of those plays.
I mean, I can afford to do McKercher back in and use my fourth trade on McKercher in the single year.
Join the club.
But I don't know, the De Koning double, it just seems like fun, and me out at 9K, maybe I'm just ready for a bit of fun.
I don't blame you. That's it would be fun to watch. It's fun until it's not.
Yeah. Which happens. There's a couple other guys, if you've got a little bit more money than that 500K, I really like Ed Richards for 542K. Kind of a neutrally hard matchup for mids, but he's just really, really good. Lockie Whitfield has a neutral run home, although starting with Richmond this week could be a monster. So I think if you're getting Whitfield, you'd want to get him this week to take advantage of that matchup. He's 558. I think he's going to be pretty good. But if you're shopping that in that price, I really, really like Nick Newman. Like if you're looking around the McGovern price, the Newman's 547K, and he's got the easiest run home for designated kickers. So I think he's going to really benefit. He's already got a really good 3-round average. He's actually been really, really good this year after starting slowly. And I think he's just going to come home with a wet sail. So if you've only got someone at about McGovern's price, I love Newman. If you get up to Sheasel at 604K, he's got the second easiest run home. Whether he's playing inside mid or attacking defender, it's both easy. Or can you get up to Sinclair at 637K, who has one of the easiest runs for attacking defenders and kind of avoided that James Jordan tag on the weekend, which was our real worry, and now has a really good run home. So I guess there's a few other options. But yeah, I wanted to put Nick Newman on people's radars and say that's a really, really nice pivot if you've only got that much money.
Yeah. That's actually who I was eyeing off, but I'm still unsure which ruck combination that would force me personally into English, and I think it might force others into that as well. So that's not the end of the world, but it's a bit hard to know what the best move is.
I guess that's a discussion because it sounds like we're in a fairly similar boat. Do you go for a more expensive defender, around the same price, like a Newman or a Whitfield or a Richards, and then you're kind of forced to get a English, or do you go down a bit on the defenders, whether it's Trent Rivers or Colby McKercher, so that you can go up to a Nank or a De Koning? Do you have an inkling either way?
Yeah, I want the captaincy option.
Yeah,
so for me,
which is the ruckman?
The ruck is more important. So I want to be able to see or VC that ruck. So I'd go down on the defender side to be able to afford a better ruck.
Yeah, Is that what you're going to do? And have you is it Nank
I
that
have
you're
no
thinking?
idea what I'm going to do.
Oh yeah. Well, it's only Monday.
I mean, I'm in a little different situation than you because I can just cover McGovern with Nick Martin because I've got he was on my bench, so
Right.
I don't need to necessarily even trade McGovern. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do. I can't actually. I have such little cash in the bank. I can't afford the 4K it costs to go from Gorn to Sherry. So it's really just English if I do one. If I decide to, if I hear more about McGovern, I'll have to consider other options. But I couldn't even tell you at this stage.
Yeah. Well, I do like your analysis there. Is that if you're losing Max Gorn, who was like a permanent captain for us, I don't want to be getting two mid guys that you wouldn't be that comfortable captaining. I agree with you. I'd want to get a Nankervis or a De Koning because they are the captain options. Even if that means you're putting McGovern or Took or whoever it is down to a McKercher. I think that's all right.
Whitfield has been incredibly good this year. Just want to point out.
But he's not. He hasn't. I don't think he scored over 125. So he's having games where he's having 35 disposals and 12 marks and still getting like a 115 SuperCoach.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he has had one game at 134, but he's only had 4 sub-tons the whole year.
Yeah, super consistent. He's taking a lot of kickouts as well, which helps.
That helps a lot. But I don't know. I can see the case for Nick Newman. It just scares me. Because you're comparing 4 sub-tons to Nick Newman's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yep.
Just a lot.
Oh, that's fair.
It's a bit scary.
Nick Newman also has the ceiling. I think he's got, off the top of my head, like 4 over 140 or something. Whereas I don't think Whitfield has any.
No, it's true. That was pretty good off the top of your head. It was 3, but that's still very good. Big scores, huge scores. I probably would lean, I think, for the consistency. But again, it depends if they're a permanent member of your field or if they're a bench member.
Well, yeah, I think we've said it before. I wouldn't really be trading premiums that are bench members.
I would, if McGovern's out for the season, we don't know yet. If he is, I mean, I may as well trade now because I'd have to trade later, and I only have I barely have anyone in my team that's more expensive than him anyway, so I don't gain much. It would only be holding him in case, God forbid, I lose another ruckman.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I'm not in the position of having premiums on my bench, so I wouldn't even know what that's like. If people are trading Rankin, any forward options we like? I mean, Jai Caldwell is in insane form.
Got to be.
He looks incredible. He's still only 544k. Like I said with Merritt, he does have a hardish run, but he's just in such good form, it doesn't really matter.
IHS-wise, he is smashing it.
Yeah. My only concern with him is that Darcy Parish is meant to be back in 2 weeks, and I do think Parish will be like our number 1 CBA mid when he comes back. Like, that is his role. But Caldwell might have gone. He probably hasn't. He's probably like even with Durham now. But I think he's gone past like the Perkins and the Stringers of the world. So definitely. I think he's absolutely still. Yeah, he's just in form. I mean, I'd say don't expect the 130s and 140s when Parish is back, but you still get 2 weeks until then. And I think he's still like 100 guy. Hopefully, when Parish is back.
I mean, we don't really have too many options. Like Luke Jackson should score well with Darcy out with concussion
this week.
So you get him for a good week, and you get the ruck cover, which now we know might be very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of Caldwell, you've got Dylan Moore, who seems to have hit some decent form and still has decent fixtures as well. So I'd probably look to get more if you don't own him, but. If you're rocking the Heaney, Flanders, Zorko combo and Rankin, you're probably getting Caldwell or more if you don't own them.
I still don't mind Jai Simpkin for 450. If he plays that midfield role, they've got the second easiest run home. So I still don't mind that. It's not very exciting.
I mean, no one's exciting. I mean, you could go back to Zach Fisher for excitement, I guess.
What about Matthew Kennedy? 420k, been getting bulk CBAs in the last few weeks. They've made Hewitt the sub because Kennedy seems to be preferred.
You can't bank on that happening for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Cherry's only just come back. Jeremy Cameron is someone that I looked at last week. Just because of the run that he has is quite soft. Turned up already. Collingwood should destroy. Then back in Geelong, Bulldogs, North Melbourne, Adelaide, both teams that are struggling a little bit. Fremantle, which is a hard game, and Saints and West Coast to finish the year, could score quite well. Otherwise, look, it's not great. Yeah, you gotta grab one of those top tier guys. I think, fortunately for Rankin owners, he's expensive, so you can get basically anybody.
I think Caldwell is such a good pivot.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's there's a bit to say about like picking people for their matchup, actually just versus picking people in red hot form. I know, especially for my captaincy videos in the last few weeks, I've fallen a little bit in the trap of like only picking the guys with the best matchup. Whereas there is a lot to say about the guys that are in hot form. Just buy them when you can. Like, don't overpay for them. Don't go into the 600Ks necessarily unless it's like your last upgrade. But yeah, those guys that just get on a hot streak that lasts for weeks, I feel like you just want to be on them even if they're not playing the easiest opponents. And I feel like Caldwell and Merritt and Neil and Dunkley, maybe Butters as well, fall into that kind of category.
Well, part of it is just, when you're picking your captaincy, I mean, you don't listen to me, listen to you, obviously. But I like to look at the people's purple patch and how they're going on the eye test, as well as taking a statistical approach.
Yeah.
And getting that real combination of, okay, so how are they looking on the eye, plus what fixtures do they have to come? I think that gives you the optimum, I guess, decision.
Yeah, we've got to find a balance of both.
Yeah. And Caldwell at the moment, I mean, look, he doesn't need to start in every CBA because he's been the fourth person to run in. So he's been able to get to the stoppages regardless, and he's tackling like a madman. And he looks like he's having a good time out there. Like, he's smiling and happy all the time. I think you get the hot hand, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm really happy watching him because I know Bombers fans for like 2 or 3 years have known just what an absolute gun this is, but he's just been so hidden in our depth chart behind so many other midfielders. So it's really nice actually seeing fans of other clubs perk up and be like, oh, this guy's pretty good. So that is quite nice for him.
All right. Last question.
All right.
Well, unless you have multiple, but I only have one more for it. So Andrew Bailey's asked in our podcast questions chat and Slack, he said earlier this season defenders were reliably outscoring midfielders, yes. However, this might have flipped based on the 5-round averages. The only defenders in the top 20 are Sinclair, Shees, Sicily, Whitfield and Nakos. If you were sideways trading, would you get bigger bang for your buck looking to bring in a midfielder over a defender?
I don't know. This is... Do we trust any of them? I kind of think that I still like the defenders, especially those ones that kind of play a bit looser and maybe don't really get tagged and aren't that accountable. So guys like Sinclair and Newman and Sheasel plays a bit of inside mid, but I do really like those guys. There are some mids that are doing really well, but the tag is just so brutal at the moment. Like even Sarong had the best matchup possible on the weekend. And just out of nowhere copped a tag from someone that normally doesn't tag, and they just, because he's that good. So there is still that worry. I think the guys, I do have a bit of a theory. It's not a theory, but what I was saying before about the guys that are in the Brownlow hunt, I think they know they're in the Brownlow hunt, and I think they are going to play their guts out. Like Lockie Neal, Zach Butters, Nick Dacos, Marcus Bontempelli, Patrick Cripps, maybe Zach Merritt as well, Isaac Heaney if he gets off. I actually think those guys know that they're a chance and will like try their best not to have a down game. So I have a fair bit of faith in those guys that are playing for something. That doesn't
Right.
really answer the defence versus mid thing. But
No, not at all. In fact, it had nothing to do with the question. I award you 0 points, and please leave the podcast.
0 points to Gryffindor. Midfielders. Because they're going to win the Brownlow.
Okay.
We got there.
Right. No, I think I agree. But it's a two-part question for me as well. If you have the cash to splash, you're picking guys with higher upside in the midfield. Like if you can afford the Neils and the Dunkleys of the world, and you're trying to get these like pretty good pods. Both of them 9% of teams with Dunkley, 13 with Neil is very low. I mean, still Treloar's in 2.5.
Yeah.
You can get these guys that are ready to explode and are pretty unique, and that could make big waves on your rank. So I like those guys. Like Treloar 571k is a pretty decent price. But if you, I guess, are struggling with that cash, you only have that amount to spend. I don't know who you're trading out, if it's a Took Miller and whatever. I think you noticed a lot of the people we spoke about under 500k, outside of Rosie, all of them were other positions. Like there weren't any midfielders.
Yeah.
Like the bang for your buck under that 570-ish is quite poor at the moment. Like there's not very many good choices. So I actually think it's purely dependent on how much money you have to spend. Under 570k, I'd probably be looking at other positions in 570 and above, then you're back in the midfield.
Yep. I think that's actually a really nice analysis.
Thank you, Pick.
Tim
That's
English
very
or
nice of
Jai
you.
Tim English or Jai Caldwell are under 570 as well, so they can fall into that not midfield basket as well.
There we go. Well, that was more luck than anything, but I'll claim it.
Yeah. Good. I've got something I've been thinking about a little bit, and it's not necessarily like players or game related, but in terms of SuperCoach itself and the changing of the prizes, or not really having something I've noticed with other format with the AFL Fantasy is that having a prize for the top 100. A lot of the content creators, and obviously we're not in that boat this year, but something that's been really cool watching them is like the ones that are on the hunt for that top 100 and really pushing for that kind of, having a set prize that's the same thing every year for a top 100 is really cool. And for them, it's the hat. But actually be able to follow those content creators and seeing how they're going and their push for the hat and kind of making content about that is really, really fun and engaging. And I don't know really what SuperCoach's plan is, but having kind of a prize, and it doesn't even have to be something big, but something for that people can go for is just something that I found a bit of a discrepancy between the platforms this year that potentially, the other platforms doing well in terms of content and engagement.
You don't like the hunt for the socks in the top 1K in the last couple of years?
Well, yeah, but we didn't really talk about it much. We weren't really going on about our socks. Although I don't think there's socks this year. I'm not sure if there is a top 1,000 prize.
No, I don't think so. No, it's not sponsored by KFC yet.
Yeah,
not actually sure.
Anyway, that's just something I've noticed with the AFL Fantasy content creators. Like it's at this time of year, it's all about the race for the hat, and it's a really cool thing that they all put together and that they're kind of going for. And unless you're actually a real chance of the top 10 in SuperCoach, there's not that much you're playing for.
Well, fortunately, we had that year when Chizo finished 8th. And that was quite exciting, except less exciting having to talk about his moves publicly every week, so everyone knew what he was doing at all.
Yeah, well,
times.
That is the downside of that. But anyway, that's just something I've been noticing the last couple of weeks, that, the last 8 weeks of SuperCoach, there's not that much going on, even if you're at 500. It's cool that you're there, but, you're not actually chasing a goal.
On the very rare occasion, before we finish, that someone needs a downgrade option,
Yes.
I'm going to throw out some names for you. So one guy that came back into the team this week and played exceptionally well, had 17 CVAs, so was mostly a midfielder. Philippou. He
was amazing.
only 218k forward. Played as a mid. Looked incredible. Basically, just I don't know what happened while he was out of the team, but he came back and he was like, oh my God, good. 112 points. Windhager got injured, so he, there's a spot up for grabs. I assume Philippou's now going to take it. Is he a better option than Sean Manor, who had 14 tackles, 179k, but has DPP and scored 118 for the Cats? And Jacob Blight is 102k and scored 86 for Richmond. And he definitely, his points per minute was really high. And then you also had Logan Evans, who's 170k at defender, who scored 86 and also looks really good. Or do you go all the way down to the cheapest possible one? What's your gut feel here?
Well, it depends what people want out of their downgrade, because if you want cash, which is probably most likely what you want, you're probably not going Philippou or Manor, even though they could be really nice cover. But if let's say you're using your last two trades, you've
got two left, so I need to spend the cash. Yeah,
well, if you need to spend the cash, and if you don't get them, you're just going to have 100k sitting around, then sure, go and get Philippou or Manor, because I do think
one?
They could be nice. Oh, which one?
Yeah.
Philippou. I think he's got more job security. Like, Manor was back for the first time. Could be out again. But he was incredible. They've both been absolutely dominating the VFL. I've just got more gut feeling that Philippou will maintain a midfield role and probably be better scorer. If you're going down in price, I'd actually really like Lawson Humphreys if you don't want a cheap guy for Geelong, because of the 117k, the defender mid-swing is nice. Or, as you mentioned, Blight, defender only 102k, that's also good. I think he's going to have good job security. But, yeah, if you're going to make me pick one of the expensive guys, I'd pick Philippou, although I do like the DPP of Manor, but I'm going to go for the guy that I think will actually play midfield.
So, fun fact for you. In the previous week, before they returned to the AFL team, both these guys played against each other in the VFL. And Manor had 6 goals, 10 tackles, 21 touches for 131 Dream Team, which is a massive game in the VFL, and that's why he got recalled.
Yep.
But Philippou in the same game had 29 touches, 8 tackles, and 2 goals for 132 Dream Team. So pipped him by 1, and they both were recalled and both did extremely well. Both playing, I guess, while Manor was more half forward.
Did you ask me this question just so you could bring up that fun fact?
No, I actually only found the fun fact while you were talking. I was like, I wonder how they scored in the VFL. So that was just very fortunate. Philippou, I agree with you. I think Saints have less to play for. Like their season is, sorry, Saints fans, their season is done. They're kind of in like a weird sort of space where they're multiple games behind the team above them. They can't really fall too far. They can fall maybe one spot on the ladder. So they're probably just chilling and trying out things to see what works for the rest of the season. And I think part of that will be giving game time to guys like Philippou to run through the mid and try things out. And 212k, if you need to spend the money on somebody that has upside and has a ceiling, I think he's probably a good choice.
Yeah, I think so. I fully agree in that they're probably packing up shop and going to see what they've got in some of these young guys. So, and he's one of the, I believe he was a top 10 pick, so they want to see what he's got.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, I think that's everything I have for the podcast, Pig, unless you have another non-Supercoach related topic to discuss.
No, I don't, but I'll see you on Saturday and I look forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to another Dr. Supercoach podcast. If you have any questions, you can find myself, Pistol_DRSC on Twitter. You can find Pig at Pig_DRSC. You can find JB at JB_DRSC. And don't forget the man, the myth, the legend, Chizo. That's Chizo with a Z_DRSC on Twitter. And we'll catch you next week.